Hi all, let's go over a key game from the World Cup 2017. Vasily Ivanchuk had got through against Kramnik and was now playing Giri. This is one of the games against Giri. So Ivanchuk playing white, kicked off with e4. Giri plays a very solid Petroff defense, this knight f6. It can be a bit dull in nature, and usually, for example, knight takes e5, we see the dullness expressed in the symmetrical pawn structure, but there are ideas for white, sometimes castling queenside. There are some interesting lines actually in this, where white accepts double pawns sometimes and plays the castle queenside. But in this game actually we get an early alternative, d4. And now we have knight takes e4, bishop d3, d5, knight takes e5, knight d7, white took on d7, castled, bishop d6, now queen h5. Also quite often played as c4 in this position, putting pressure on d5, for example like this. This kind of position is about equal. So anyway, queen h5, we have queen f6. Black is not worried about d5 here. Now Vasily Ivanchuk is aware of the main theory move, knight c3, but he didn't play knight c3, and I'll give you an example. Queen takes d4, bishop e3. This has been seen before, this sequence. Yeah, quite tactical in nature actually, because that pin, but it ends up as being equal basically. White might have the bishop here, but look at the pawn structure, it's symmetrical, and there's dangers for white if white ever took on g7. So Ivanchuk was aware of the theory move, but actually played what he considered to be an interesting alternative, bishop e3 here. And just to look also at queen takes d5 for a moment. This isn't greatly played. Black has a good game, it seems, just like this, with compensation. You can see both bishops are pointing at the king. Okay, so bishop e3, black castled queenside. So it looks interesting from that point of view, opposite side castling. We have knight c3. Black took on c3, which looks a little bit dangerous, you might think, for the b file, but white's structure has been compromised. Queen e6 protecting d5, rook e1, and there looks to be a threat of bishop g5 here. That's kind of addressed with f6. Bishop d2 hitting the queen. The queen moves to g8, keeping an eye on d5. Rook ab1, as though there might be some intention to sort of put pressure on b7, maybe with queen f3 and c4, or c4 then queen f3. It could be dangerous at some point. We see king b8 for the moment. h3, b6 now was played. Bishop a6, g5. Black is also trying to be aggressive on the king side. Queen f3. Now, although it looks at the f6 pawn, is this too dangerous to take? This is tested. Giri plays g4 here, and it looks as though black, look at these bishops pointing at the king and the g file. Isn't black potentially whipping out a dangerous attack? Ivanchuk took on g4 and actually did nab this pawn, and it seems to give black a great position in theory. Look at this. Isn't this a bit scary to play against Giri? Queen h4, h5. Now a calm move though, bishop g5, with the idea of eyeing that entry point, maybe with bishop e7. And black parries that e7 square, but he's actually weakened his back row subtly. And this next move, rook e3, seems very logical to double rooks on that e file. Bishop c8. Here now that's taken, and white logically doubles. Queen g6. So has black got enough for the pawn? And he looks at c2, but white ignores that. Bishop e7, creating his own threats. Bishop takes, rook takes, and in fact that pawn is taken. So we're equal on pawns here. Queen g3, threatening queen takes c7, checkmate. Rook takes, check. Queen f4. Then we have f3, a5, rook e5, queen f7, check, king b7, and white takes this pawn. Now this is the moment where it seems black might have been potentially doing okay by playing check here. This is a crucial moment to try and pick off one of these pawns, because at the moment black is now back to being a pawn down, but he might be able to regain at this moment a pawn by double attacking here. For example, this position weakens d4, and it should be okay, it seems, for black here. Just giving this scenario, this should be okay. Black has got his own passed pawn. If you look at this scenario, it's balanced roughly. But in the game, actually, in this position, a4 was played. Now this is approaching move 40, so both players probably getting short of time. So this might not be the most accurate move. In fact, now rook h7, we see very different scenario with the rook on h7, because now queen g3, the queen is pinned to c7. It can't really leave the protection of c7, so white doesn't even lose any of these two pawns here. And now this rook and pawn ending, after rook e7 especially, the rook is dropping back to c3, to protect c3 rather, to e3. And white stands very well now in this rook and pawn ending. And in fact here, after f4, c5, f5, and the game ended here. Giri evaluated this as just lost for him. How does he make progress with any of his pawns? He hasn't got a passed pawn candidate. White, by contrast, has got now two connected passed pawns, and this is going to be an easy win. Just push the pawns basically, and maybe with rook f3 to give the pawns an extra push. The king is away from the pawns. It's just absolutely winning. So Giri resigned here, and let me tell you, this is part of the decisive result actually, because in the other game, which we may cover on the channel at some point, but I don't usually cover draws, it was a draw. So in fact, Vasily Ivanchuk did knock out Anish Giri. So congratulations to him. He's the man of the moment. His impressive achievements extend way back. He once crushed Garry Kasparov at, I believe, at Linares, giving up both bishops in the Sicilian defence, which I recommend you to check out. I'll put that video in the link in the description of this one. Okay, comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated, and congratulations to Vasily Ivanchuk again. Thanks very much.